Can one strategic trade transform a franchise's devastating injury crisis into their greatest competitive advantage of the season? The San Francisco 49ers are standing at the most critical crossroads of their 2025 campaign, and the decision they make in the coming weeks could either salvage their Super Bowl aspirations or watch them crumble under the weight of adversity. Nick Bosa's absence has torn open a massive wound in their defensive foundation, a gaping hole that threatens to collapse what many experts considered the most complete roster in the NFC. But lurking in Miami sits a potential savior who could flip this nightmare scenario into the 49ers' most brilliant strategic masterstroke of the decade. Bradley Chubb isn't just another available pass rusher sitting on the trade market. He's a legitimate game-changer who could transform San Francisco's desperate situation into an unfair competitive advantage that opposing offensive coordinators will lose sleep over. The question burning through the Bay Area isn't whether the 49ers need elite help. It's whether they possess the organizational courage to make the franchise-defining move that could rescue their entire season. While San Francisco grapples with their Bosa catastrophe, Miami finds itself drowning in a completely different but equally devastating predicament. The Dolphins are suffocating at 0-3, anchored to the bottom of the AFC East with their playoff dreams already looking like distant fantasies rather than realistic goals. This represents exactly the type of organizational crisis that forces front offices to abandon win-now mentality and pivot towards strategic asset accumulation. And Bradley Chubb represents their most valuable, tradable commodity in this fire sale scenario. The timing couldn't be more cosmically perfect for both franchises involved in this potential blockbuster. Miami survived the entire 2024 season without Chubb's services due to his injury recovery, definitively proving they can function defensively without his elite pass-rushing presence on the field. Meanwhile, they've invested significant resources elsewhere along their defensive line, strongly suggesting Chubb has become expendable if the compensation package reaches their desired threshold. For a franchise staring directly at another soul-crushing, disappointing season, the prospect of converting a 28-year-old premium pass rusher into valuable future draft capital becomes increasingly attractive with each humiliating loss. The Dolphins' front office understands that retaining Chubb through a lost season makes absolutely zero strategic sense when they could be methodically building toward future competitiveness instead. Chubb's recent return to elite form makes him exponentially more appealing as a premium trade asset in today's competitive marketplace. After missing significant time battling injury concerns that raised legitimate questions about his long-term durability, he's looked explosive, healthy, and absolutely dominant in early 2025 action. This isn't a desperate franchise attempting to sell damaged goods to unsuspecting buyers. They're potentially offering a premium pass rusher who's hitting his absolute peak performance stride at the most opportune moment imaginable. One of the most compelling aspects of a potential Chubb acquisition involves how surprisingly manageable the financial commitment would be for San Francisco's salary cap situation. Thanks to a strategically brilliant March contract restructure, Chubb's massive $55 million deal carries a remarkably reasonable 2025 cap hit of approximately $12.4 million. For a championship-caliber team like the 49ers, that financial obligation represents manageable investment rather than budget-breaking expenditure that could hamstring future roster construction. The financial flexibility becomes even more attractive when considering Miami's potential willingness to retain salary portions to facilitate the deal. Similar to Denver's approach with the Von Miller trade in 2021, teams selling valuable assets at the deadline often sweeten deals by eating significant contract portions, and Miami's current desperate situation suggests they might embrace such arrangements enthusiastically. Perhaps most importantly for San Francisco's long-term planning, Chubb's contract structure includes zero guaranteed money beyond this season, meaning the 49ers wouldn't be locked into a potentially restrictive long-term financial commitment that could limit future roster flexibility. This creates the perfect rental scenario where San Francisco can maximize their 2025 championship window without mortgaging their organizational future or handcuffing their ability to retain core players during upcoming contract negotiations. The risk-reward calculation becomes even more favorable when considering the alternative scenario. Without a significant pass rush upgrade, the 49ers defense could struggle maintaining the elite performance level necessary for sustained playoff success against the conference's top offenses. Head coach Kyle Shanahan didn't attempt to sugarcoat the harsh reality of losing Nick Bosa when he candidly told reporters, "You don't just replace a guy like Nick. When you lose your better players, it gets harder. But I also expect throughout this year, all of our players to get better as it goes." That's stressed even that much more when you lose a great one like Nick. Reading between the lines of Shanahan's carefully chosen words reveals the coaching staff's internal understanding that they desperately need external reinforcement. While he's publicly expressing confidence in current players stepping up to fill expanded roles, the emphasis on everyone needing dramatic improvement suggests internal recognition that their current options simply aren't sufficient for championship-level competition. The 49ers constructed their entire defensive identity around Bosa's ability to single-handedly wreck opposing offensive game plans through pure individual dominance. His rare combination of technique mastery, elite athleticism, and exceptional football intelligence created problems that opposing coordinators had to account for on every single snap. Losing that disruptive element doesn't just damage the pass rush, it negatively affects coverage schemes, run defense coordination, and overall defensive communication and execution. Shanahan's acknowledgement that lots of guys obviously will have to step it up reveals genuine coaching staff concerns about asking role players to transform into primary contributors during the most crucial stretch of the season. While depth players occasionally exceed expectations in limited opportunities, championship-level teams typically require elite talent at critical positions, especially during playoff competition where margins for error shrink dramatically and every possession becomes magnified. Based on recent trade deadline precedents and current market dynamics, a fair compensation package would likely center around significant draft capital investment. The Montez Sweat trade that netted Washington a second-round pick provides useful benchmark reference, though Chubb's contract situation and injury history might slightly adjust his market value. A realistic proposal would send Bradley Chubb to San Francisco in exchange for a 2026 second-round pick plus a 2026 sixth-round pick. This package appropriately acknowledges Chubb's exceptional talent and potential championship impact, while accounting for financial considerations and injury concerns that might temper his overall market value. For Miami, acquiring a future second-rounder provides tremendous value for their organizational rebuilding efforts. Second-round picks frequently yield starting-caliber players, and possessing additional ammunition for the 2026 draft could significantly accelerate their reconstruction timeline and competitive return. Adding Bradley Chubb wouldn't just fill the Bosa void. It could potentially create an even more dynamic and devastating pass rush rotation than what existed previously. When Bosa eventually returns from injury recovery, the 49ers would possess one of the league's most formidable edge rushing tandems, capable of creating relentless pressure and forcing offensive coordinators into impossible protection situations. Chubb's diverse skill set complements the 49ers' aggressive defensive scheme perfectly. His combination of explosive first-step quickness and devastating power moves would integrate seamlessly into their attacking style, while his veteran experience would provide crucial leadership for younger players who might be pressing to fill dramatically expanded roles. The psychological impact on opposing offenses cannot be understated either. Facing a healthy Chubb alongside the 49ers, existing defensive weapons would create protection nightmares that could benefit every level of their defensive structure. Better pass rush typically generates improved coverage opportunities, increased turnover production, and enhanced run defense as offensive lines dedicate additional resources to quarterback protection rather than creating running lanes. For San Francisco, this trade represents far more than routine roster management. It's about maximizing a championship window that might not remain open indefinitely. The 49ers have invested enormous resources in building a Super Bowl caliber roster, and allowing injuries to derail those championship efforts would constitute organizational malpractice. Championship teams distinguish themselves by making bold, calculated moves when golden opportunities present themselves. The combination of Miami's struggles, Chubb's availability, and San Francisco's immediate need creates a rare alignment of circumstances that savvy organizations must capitalize on aggressively. The 2025 season represents a crucial moment for the 49ers' current core group of players. Waiting until next year to address their pass rush deficiency could mean missing their optimal championship window entirely as key players' age and salary cap constraints tighten. Smart organizations understand that timing matters tremendously in professional sports, and this might represent their perfect moment to strike decisively. The Bradley Chubb trade scenario represents exactly the type of calculated risk that championship organizations must be willing to embrace. The financial commitment remains manageable, the talent upgrade would be significant, and the timing aligns perfectly with both teams' needs and circumstances. San Francisco cannot afford to let Nick Bosa's injury define their season, especially when a proven solution exists in Miami. The Dolphins' struggles create unprecedented opportunity, and the 49ers should be aggressive enough to seize it before other contending teams recognize the same potential and drive up the asking price. Sometimes championship runs require bold decisions at crucial moments. For the 49ers, trading for Bradley Chubb could be the franchise-altering move that transforms a potential disaster into the foundation for playoff success and Super Bowl contention. What's your honest assessment of this potential blockbuster trade? Do you believe the 49ers should go all in for Chubb services, or would you prefer seeing them develop internal solutions to their pass rush crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments and share whether you think this trade would be a masterstroke or a costly mistake. I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective on these high-stakes decisions that could reshape entire franchise trajectories.